River Rouge Panthers. This is Mr. Cruz. This is World War II. Video number 4. If you haven't seen the first 3, scroll down, go back. We were learning this stuff. Then we started our Black History Month project and topics. We're coming back to World War II. We are going to start with the Nazi invasion of the Soviet Union. This was known as Operation Barbarossa. We left off, we finished the bombing of Great Britain, the invasion of Great Britain, called the Battle of Britain. Hitler's first setback. He wasn't able to take Great Britain. This would be his second and probably most fatal setback. The Soviet Union at that time, is led by Joseph Stalin. You see a picture of him right here. The Soviet Union is communist Russia. This is a hammer and a sickle. Represents industry and agriculture. This is a huge mistake on Hitler's part. Part of war is you never want a war on two fronts. It's like in a fight. If you're going to fight two people, you think you can beat them, but you don't want to fight them both at the same time. You'd rather fight them one-on-one. Well, he's going to go toe-to-toe with Europe on the western border of Germany, and now the Soviet Union on the eastern border. Now, Joseph Stalin and the Soviet Union, we're on the same side with him. He's on the Allies. And this is going to be what happens to Hitler. If you need one picture to figure this out, the Russian winter is just brutal. And it's going to literally stop Hitler in his tracks. But it's going to start out pretty good for him. So there's Hitler. There's Joseph Stalin. Behind him is Winston Churchill. We learned about him, Great Britain. Prime Minister. Arguably the greatest Prime Minister in British history. And FDR. Franklin Delano Roosevelt. President of the United States. Okay, so Hitler is going to invade the Soviet Union. Not a great idea. And a side note, in Russia today, they don't even call it World War II. They call it the War of German Aggression because they feel like they did most of the heavy lifting. It's hard to argue. Nobody lost more people in World War II than the Soviet Union, than Russia. Hitler's going to get off to a good start, but eventually Stalin's going to push him out. Okay, so there were some visuals for you. Again, our brains work in pictures. Pictures are always good, right? Okay, take good notes. You're going to have 2 different types of assessment today. We're going to play cahoots on what we learned yesterday, what we've learned in the last couple weeks. First place in Kahoot will get 100 points extra credit. Second place in Kahoot will get 50 points extra credit. Third place will get 25 points extra credit. You can work alone or work with a team or a partner. That's today. And then everybody will do an exit ticket after we're done with that. So pay attention. You can use your notes on both. You can use your notes on the Kahoot and you can use your notes on today's exit ticket. So please keep your notes. Don't forget report cards. I got to put the grades in this Friday. So I'm doing the best I can to offer you some extra points. Let's get these grades up. All right. We've been working on taking notes college style, right? Main ideas. So let's get the when. June 22nd, 1944. The what? Germany invades Russia. At this time it's called the Soviet Union. It remains the Soviet Union until 1991 when communism falls. Okay, why? There's a lot of reasons why. And again, this isn't a world history class or a college class. We're not going to get too much into it, but we're all going to... Hitler wants to knock Stalin out of the war. And most importantly, maybe one reason Hitler was so anxious for this, some people, depending on what Hitler biography you read, some biographers will make the argument that Hitler didn't have a choice because he couldn't keep the largest mechanized army in human history rolling without oil. And he needed oil that was in Russian hands. So he was kind of going for broke. Okay, he desperately needs oil for his tanks and his planes, etc. Okay, the Soviet Union at this time is 1/6 of planet Earth. Try to wrap your brain around that. In square miles, it takes up 1/6 of all land on the planet. That's how big the Soviet Union was. Russia today is still big. It's not quite that big, but it's still pretty big. But Stalin has more soldiers than anybody in the world. He has more soldiers than he has guns. And remember, we learned about Hitler's blitzkrieg. For all you football fans out there, this is where football gets the term blitz. Hitler's style of war was called a blitzkrieg. It's German for lightning war. It meant we hit you fast, we hit you hard, before you even know what happens. So that was the style of war, a blitzkrieg. And the blitzkrieg is working very well at first. Hitler's making huge progress in his invasion of the Soviet Union, Operation Barbarossa. And don't forget the star system, right, with taking notes. Make your life easy. Do things the easy way. If a teacher or a professor repeats themselves 3, 4, 5 times, I'm sure you guys notice I repeat myself a lot. There's a reason. How many times have I said this is called Operation Barbarossa, and you see it right here? In your notes, you should have written it once, and every time I say it again, put a star by it, put a star by it, put a star by it. That way, when you look at your notes, whether it's high school or college, everything with a lot of stars on it, in your brain, you should be going, man, there's a really good chance that's going to be on the test. Work smart. You don't have to work hard. So they have the Battle of Leningrad. Okay, it's in the Soviet, named after their first communist leader, WWII Lenin. And the Soviets, it's a bloodbath. Just this one battle in this one city. Is 1 million dead bodies. Okay, again, this isn't a military history class. It's not college. We don't have time to go over all the battles. It's really cool stuff, but we just want to get the basics here for 9th grade history. Imagine a city with 1 million dead bodies. Right now, Detroit has maybe 700,000 people in it. That's total population of the city of Detroit. Imagine every single Detroit resident plus 300,000 more laying dead in the streets. That's how many dead bodies were in this city. One battle. Stalingrad, obviously named after Stalin. Okay, it's August 23rd, 1942. It starts. The Luftwaffe. Okay, the Luftwaffe. That's the Nazi Air Force or the German Air Force. Stalin orders his men to fight to the death. And Germans end up controlling 90% of the city. The Germans look like they're about to take over the Soviet Union. If they can get Stalingrad, they could probably run the show in the Soviet Union. That would be huge. But the Russian winter hits. Okay, the Germans literally start to freeze to death. They weren't dressed for the winter. The oil in the German Panzers. A Panzer is a German tank. Okay, make sure you know that. A Panzer, that's a German tank. Panzer. I said it 3 times. If you're taking notes like a college student, like I'm trying to get you to do, you should have Panzer written down once with 2 stars next to it, right? Star system. Cornell note-taking system. Star system. You'll be taking notes like a successful college student. Okay, Russians, they counterattack and they cut off the supply, food, gas, etc. It doesn't matter how big your army is, how bad your army is. If you don't have food and supplies, it's a wrap. You're not going anywhere. So between the weather and getting cut off from their supplies, the Germans are in bad, bad shape. Again, it's kind of like football. If you blitz every down, right, for your football fans out there, what happens? Eventually, the other team's going to make adjustments. You might bring in an extra tight end. You're going to block more. You're going to pick up. Sorry about that. You're going to pick up the blitz, right? Stalin kind of picks up the blitz with the help of the Russian winter, of course. And these Nazi or German soldiers, a lot of, the side note, a lot of Germans didn't like being called Nazis. They wanted to be called German soldiers. Even I met World War II vets later on when I was about your age. And I met German soldiers that were in the war. Man, they did not like being called Nazis. They did not like the Nazi Party. They did not like Hitler. But they were doing their job for their country. They said, I'm a German soldier. I'm not a Nazi. I never was a Nazi. And they started with this, imagine 330,000 people invading, that many soldiers just invading a foreign country. That's a huge army. And once again, the Battle of Stalingrad, like Leningrad, this is another million people dead in one battle. Okay, World War II is just unbelievable as far as casualties. I hopefully will have time to watch a movie called Enemy at the Gates. It's based on a true story. If you guys are interested, it's about a Russian sniper that's doing really well, killing a lot of Nazis, and Hitler sends his best German sniper to go kill the Russian sniper. And in that battle, or in that film, they recreate the Battle of Stalingrad. It gives you a good idea what it was like. So hopefully, if we have time, maybe we could watch that movie, if you guys are interested. So the bottom line with the Battle of Stalingrad is that Germany suffers a major defeat. They can't beat Russia. They got off to a good start, but between Stalin having more men than any country in the world, more soldiers, the Russian winter, and just the vast size of Russia, and then them getting their supplies cut off, it was a wrap. This was a failure. Next year, when you take world history, you learn about Napoleon. Ironically, Napoleon had done the same thing before Hitler. He made the same mistake. He invaded Russia in the winter. Okay, next. This is what brings the United States into the war. It's the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. Not the Germans, okay? Despite what Animal House says, Germany did not bomb Pearl Harbor. I don't know why we still get that. I'm not even sure if you guys have ever seen Animal House. But for some strange reason, kids will say the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor. It was the Japanese. Pearl Harbor is an island. It's in the Pacific. It is now a state. Mrs. Cruz and I went here for our honeymoon. It was very cool. And we got to see some of the ships that were bombed. This is a naval base for the United States. Japan, okay, remember from the last lesson, I know it's been a minute, but they're part of the Axis, right? They're on the side with Germany and Italy. And Japan felt that the U.S. was interfering with their trade and expansion. They saw the U.S. presence in the Pacific as a threat. So they decide, why take on this huge, huge navy in the open waters? Why not sneak attack? So this Pearl Harbor is like a sucker punch. It's like, we're going to have to fight anyway. We might as well get in the first shot. So it's a surprise attack. It's Sunday morning. Everybody's sleeping. All the ships are lined up. If you guys play video games, what's easier? To bomb a bunch of ships while they're docked and everyone's sleeping? Or to fight them in the open water, right? If you can bomb them and they're all next to each other, that could be a lot easier. Depending on the response time, right? At the Battle of Pearl Harbor, over 2,300 Americans are killed. This is the largest cause of death until what? Till 9/11 in the U.S. There's 1,100 wounded. This is what brings the United States into World War II, when the Japanese attack Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. Okay, that's going to do it for World War II video number 4. We're going to stop here. If we have time, we'll try to show you a couple video clips in class. And then I will see you in video number 5 when we continue our flipped classroom lesson on World War II.